At the end of this week, 6 years ago, our group, Black Women's March, was founded, and we had our first Black Women's March in Brooklyn. But before that, let's go back and talk about some things that led to that. First of all, at some point at the beginning of June, there was an LGBTQIA march in Brooklyn, and the police was very violent. Very violent. I saw that in the morning. I wasn't there, and I was livid. It was awful. And that day, when I went outside to a protest, I was at this group that I mentioned before, People's March, aka No Name, and one of the guys approached me. They saw me before. At some point, they gave me a megaphone, to chant. I was, doing some stuff like, giving water. I was active. And he approached me and he said, "Hey, we're missing a speaker. Would you like to speak?" I'm like, I never spoken in my life in front of people. Like, I'm an actress, so I was in front of people, but that's not public speaking. And I speak in front of people as a teacher, but not the same thing. And he said, no, please do that. Like, I told him I'm very angry. I told him what happened, what I saw. He's like, perfect, talk about that and talk about how you feel. And I did. I don't have the speech. I don't have any of my speeches. If someone has this one or anyone, please send them to me. Anyway, at the end of speaking, I felt heard. I felt understood. I felt the people in front of me felt what I was saying. It was a huge difference for me. Usually when I talk to people about things that I feel strongly about, there's always some objection, but these people fully understood me. I remember an elderly Black woman came to me after I spoke, and she told me how much it moved her what I said, and that I'm good at that and I should be doing that. Some other people approached me, and then I spoke again during the march because they had some stops and they needed somebody to speak again, so I spoke again. Anyway, after that day, I felt like there's something more I could do for the movement. Talking about this, something I could do. I don't know when it started happening. I don't know the exact day or why. But I know that at some point at the beginning of June, I started to want to do more. It may have been that sign I made with Be the Change and that promise that if you write that, you better do that. It could be the fact that the day I made that sign, when I got home, I got that first donation ever of $20 from one of my neighbors who was far from rich, but who saw me going every day. He knew what was happening in the city, and that meant something to me. I think it was something that happened to a lot of us protesting. I think the energy outside was, let's build something. What can I do to help? How can I be useful? And that made me learn something new every day. That made me start helping, every time I was out a little bit more. Yeah, I think it was an energy in the city, it at least for all of us outside. It was, let's work together. Let's do the best we can to support. What can we do? And that was an everyday thing that became me. There was also something else that I noticed. From the beginning, I think from the beginning of June, from the protest on June 1st, when I think that day the protests started being more organized, let's say, I noticed a lot of black women leading the marches, the protests, like a lot. Of course, there were the black men too, but I saw black women speaking, black women organizing, and at some point I asked myself, why there is no black women's march, like, or protest? Like, why there isn't something focused on black women specifically? Of course, at the beginning of June, it was all George Floyd, but then Breonna Taylor came into the conversation. And I think that ignited that thought. But it was just a thought. It was just a question that came to me whenever I would see black women speaking, and I was very, very moved of how deeply they felt about things and how impactful it was, everything they were saying. And then that was June 10th, 2020. I was walking from a protest or a march that ended at Union Square to People's March's protest that started at Washington Square Park. And as I was walking, I looked around, and I can see them now. All the buildings were full of Black Lives Matter. Like, all companies, all brands had a Black Lives Matter attached to them. Even Amazon had that. I'm like, really? And suddenly, it struck me. The only brand organization that I haven't seen outside was Women's March. And, besides the whole protest thing around the city and everything that happened, but it was Breonna Taylor. The Breonna Taylor movement already started in the city. There were so many black women organizers, speakers outside. How come they are not out there to support? Not even a banner, not even a sign, nothing. There was no women's march. And to me, it felt like strange. I'm like, if there is an organization, Women's March, isn't that supposed to support all women? And if it's meant to support all women, why aren't you outside for black women? And with that energy, I got to Washington Square Park, and I asked the leader at the moment of People's March, Carlos, hey, why do you know if there is a Black Women's March? And he looked at me and he said, I don't know, but why don't you start it? I'll help. I didn't expect that answer. I was in that frame of mind that I'm here to help, I'm here to support, I'll do whatever is necessary. But also, my entire life, I heard the first part of his answer. Why don't you do it? Why don't you do it? I had never heard before in my life, I'll help. So I started.